"Sit still," the man whispered, his breath warm against her frozen neck, and Amara realized the security footage she'd just witnessed wasn't a recording. It was happening right now, one floor below. At 2:47 in the morning, the tower was supposed to be empty. No executives, no security, just one night janitor finishing her shift. She wasn't curious by nature, but one blinking notification on an executive computer changed everything. What she thought was recorded footage was labeled live. 7 floors below her feet, a man was tied to a chair, and another man was deciding whether he would live or die. She reached to close the screen, but it was already too late, because behind her, the private elevator opened. Footsteps echoed through the executive suite, measured, unhurried, powerful. The kind of footsteps that didn't rush because they owned the building. And in that moment, she understood the truth. The man from the footage wasn't downstairs anymore. He was here. The Korean Mafia boss leaned in and said, "Sit still." The virgin janitor instantly knew she was trapped. The executive suite of the Bayak Tower smelled like imported leather and secrets at 2:47 a.m. Amara Okafor gripped her industrial mop tighter, her rubber gloves squeaking against the handle as she backed away from the sleek desktop computer. She shouldn't have touched it. She definitely shouldn't have clicked the blinking notification. But curiosity was a poison she'd never learned to resist. On the screen, security camera footage played in grainy black and white. A basement parking garage, 3 men in suits surrounding a fourth who was bound to a chair, and then a 5th figure entering the frame. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of lethal grace that made Amara's stomach clench even through pixelated video. The timestamp read, "Live Feed." Her heart stopped. This wasn't archived footage. This was happening now, 7 floors beneath her feet. She reached for the mouse to close the window, but froze when she heard the distinct ding of the executive elevator arriving, the one that required a key card she didn't have, the one that shouldn't be operating during her overnight cleaning shift. Footsteps, multiple, approaching fast. Amara's nursing school training kicked in. Assess, prioritize, act. She killed the monitor, dove behind the mahogany desk, and pressed herself against the side panel, pulling her cleaning cart in front of her like a barricade. Through the gap between the desk and cart, she watched 3 pairs of expensive Italian shoes enter the office. "The cleaner's still here," a voice said in accented English. "Her cart. Find her." That second voice, deep, controlled, absolutely devoid of mercy, made every hair on Amara's neck stand vertical. It was the same voice she'd heard through the computer speakers 30 seconds ago, ordering the bound man to reconsider his loyalty. She held her breath, counting her heartbeats. 60 seconds. 90. They were searching, opening closets, checking behind the wet bar. Then a hand, strong, with calloused fingers and a black titanium watch, gripped the edge of the desk above her head. "Interesting hiding spot," that velvet steel voice said, closer now, almost amused. "But you're trembling so hard I can feel the floor vibrating." Amara squeezed her eyes shut, a useless child's defense. "Stand up, slowly." She didn't move, couldn't move. A pause. Then quieter, almost gentle. "I can drag you out, or you can walk out with dignity. Your choice, but you have 3 seconds. Dignity. The word was absurd in this context, but something about his tone, patient, oddly respectful, made her uncurl her cramped legs and rise. She faced him. The man was a study in controlled violence, mid-30s with a face that belonged on a Cologne billboard, if not for the predatory stillness in his eyes. Dark. Almost black, framed by the kind of bone structure that made artists weep. His suit was midnight blue, perfectly tailored, with a single drop of something dark on the collar. Blood. Fresh. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the leather executive chair. Amara's voice cracked. "I didn't see anything. I was just cleaning. I don't even speak." "Korean?" He smiled, a razor-thin curve of lips. Yet you understood my men perfectly when they spoke it in the hall. You also accessed a secured server with administrator credentials. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. So let's begin with honesty. Sit still. The command in those two words, sit still, landed like a physical touch. Amara's knees buckled and she collapsed into the chair, her yellow janitor's uniform stark against the black leather. He studied her with the intensity of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. Nigerian. My parents were. I'm American. Her accent thickened with fear. Please, I just work nights to pay for nursing school. I didn't mean to. What's your name? Amara. Amara Okafor. Amara, he repeated, and the way his tongue shaped her name made her stomach flutter inappropriately. I'm Kang Doyen. And you, Amara Okafor, who is just a nursing student working nights, have now seen something that men die to keep secret. Her mouth went dry. Are you going to kill me? Doyen tilted his head, genuinely considering. That depends entirely on what you do in the next 60 seconds. Doyen's men flanked the door, two statues in identical black suits, weapons visible in shoulder holsters. Amara's eyes kept darting to them, calculating exits that didn't exist. Look at me, Doyen said softly. Not them, me. Her gaze snapped back. Up close, she noticed details. A thin scar through his left eyebrow, the faint smell of cedar and cordite, the way his jaw tensed when she made eye contact as if he wasn't accustomed to people meeting his stare. The man in the video, Amara whispered. Is he dead? Does it matter? It matters if you're deciding whether I'm a witness to murder. Something flickered in Doyen's expression. Surprise? Respect? You're calmer than expected. I grew up in Lagos before my family emigrated. I've seen violence. She straightened her spine, drawing on reserves of courage she didn't know existed. But I've also seen enough American crime shows to know that witnesses either cooperate or disappear. So tell me what you want, Mr. Kang. Doyen, he corrected. If we're discussing your survival, use my name. The intimacy of that request felt more dangerous than the guns. He moved around the desk, invading her space until his thighs pressed against the chair's armrest. Amara's breath caught. This close, she could see the fine weave of his shirt, the steady pulse at his throat, the way his dark eyes traced her face like he was memorizing every feature. You said you're a nursing student, Doyen murmured. Top of your class at Seoul Medical University, specializing in emergency trauma. You speak 4 languages, including Korean, which you've hidden from your employer. You work 3 jobs, send money home to family in Atlanta, and you've been cleaning this building for 7 months without a single complaint. Ice flooded her veins. You know everything about me. I know everything about everyone in my territory. He reached out slowly, giving her time to flinch away. She didn't, and tucked a loose braid behind her ear. His fingertips grazed her cheek. But I'm learning to know differently. Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. Doyen's hand lingered, his thumb brushing her jawline. Because you witnessed a crime, and your first question wasn't, will you hurt me, but is he dead? Because you're terrified, but you haven't cried or begged. His voice dropped to a near whisper. Because the way you're looking at me right now, like I'm a problem to solve instead of a monster to flee, is the most intriguing thing I've encountered in a decade. Amara's pulse hammered against his thumb. She should pull away, should scream, fight, do anything except lean infinitesimally into his touch. I'm not intriguing, she managed. I'm poor, exhausted, and way out of my depth. Yet you're still negotiating. Doyen smiled, and this time it reached his eyes, a genuine flicker of warmth that transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. So let's negotiate, Amara. You have skills I need. Trauma care, discretion, language abilities. Work for me. Work for... She jerked back. I'm not joining the Mafia. You already have. The moment you saw that footage. His hand fell away, leaving her skin cold. The choice isn't whether you're involved, it's whether you're protected or eliminated. I'd prefer the former. One of his men stepped forward, speaking rapid Korean. Doyen's expression hardened. He replied in the same language, then switched back to English. We have a situation. You're coming with me. Like hell I am. He cupped her chin firmly, not painful, but absolutely immovable, forcing her to hold his gaze. Sit. Still. Trust me for the next 20 minutes, and I'll prove I'm not what you think I am. You're exactly what I think you are. Amara shot back. His eyes glittered. Then you should be running. But you're not. He was right. God help her. He was right. Instead of running, some reckless part of her wanted to follow this beautiful, terrifying man into whatever fresh hell awaited, just to see what happened next. Doyen's SUV smelled like leather and danger. Amara sat in the back, wedged between two of his men, while he occupied the front passenger seat, speaking in low tones on his phone. The Seoul cityscape blurred past. Neon signs advertising Nore Bang and fried chicken, bleeding into luxury boutiques and corporate towers. They were heading to Gangnam, the glittering heart of wealth and excess. Where are we going? Amara demanded. Doyen ended his call. To show you why you can't walk away. 20 minutes later, they pulled into the underground garage of a medical building. But instead of entering through the hospital's main entrance, Doyen led her through a service corridor to an unmarked elevator. Private medical facility, he explained as the elevator descended, for people who can't afford questions. Illegal clinic, Amara translated. Pragmatic clinic. The doors opened to a sterile hallway that wouldn't have looked out of place in any hospital, except for the armed guard at the nurses' station. Doyen exchanged words with him, then gestured for Amara to follow. They entered a recovery ward with 6 beds. 5 were occupied by men in various states of injury. Gunshot wounds, stab injuries, one with severe burns. A harried doctor looked up, relief flooding her face when she saw Doyen. Thank God, we're overwhelmed, and Dr. Choi collapsed an hour ago from exhaustion. Doyen turned to Amara. These men work for me. They were protecting shipments of medical supplies being smuggled into North Korea. Supplies for children's hospitals that international sanctions won't allow through legal channels. Amara's worldview tilted. You're running humanitarian smuggling? Among other things. He moved to the bedside of a young man. Couldn't be older than 22, with a blood-soaked bandage around his abdomen. This is Min Jun. He was shot intercepting a rival gang that was trying to steal the shipment to sell on the black market. He's dying because I don't have enough medical staff. The young man's lips were blue, his breathing shallow. Amara's training overrode her fear. She pushed past Doyen, examined the wound, checked his pupils. He's going into hypovolemic shock. The bleeding hasn't been properly controlled. She looked at the overwhelmed doctor. Do you have O-negative blood and a surgical suite? Yes, but then let's move. Now. For the next 3 hours, Amara forgot about Mafia bosses and security footage. She fell into the rhythm she loved. Assess, stabilize, save. She assisted in surgery, her hands steady as she clamped bleeders and called out vital signs. When Min Jun's pressure stabilized and color returned to his face, she finally stepped back, her yellow janitor's uniform now splattered with blood. Doyen had watched the entire procedure from the observation window. When she emerged, stripping off surgical gloves, he handed her a bottle of water. You didn't hesitate. He was dying. Amara drank deeply, her hands starting to shake now that the adrenaline was fading. What you do, who you are, none of that matters when someone's bleeding out. It matters to me. Doyen stepped closer, his voice rough with something that sounded like awe. You just saved one of my men. Do you understand what that means in my world? It means I did my job. It means you're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. He reached out, And this time, when his fingers brushed her cheek, wiping away a smear of blood, the gesture felt unbearably intimate. You walked into my world wearing innocence like armor, Amara. But you're not innocent, are you? You're brave, skilled, and far too good for someone like me to touch. Her breath hitched. Then don't touch me. His hand stilled, cupping her face. I'm trying. God, I'm trying. But the way you looked in that operating room, fierce and certain and alive, I've never wanted to touch someone more. The air between them crackled. Amara's heart raced for entirely different reasons now. This close, she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, could feel the barely restrained intensity radiating from him. Doyen, she whispered, not sure if it was a warning or a plea. He leaned in, his forehead nearly touching hers, his breath warm against her lips. Tell me to stop. She should. Every logical neuron in her brain screamed at her to push him away, to run, to remember that this man was dangerous, criminal, impossible. But her mouth shaped different words. What if I don't want you to stop? His control shattered visibly. His pupils dilated, his jaw clenched, and for a heartbeat Amara thought he would kiss her, right there in the blood-splattered hallway. Then his phone buzzed. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly, and stepped back. We're not done, he said, voice rough. Not even close. But right now, I need to get you somewhere safe. Why? What's happening? Doyen's expression hardened back into the mask of a crime lord. The rivals who shot Min Jun, they know you were in that building tonight. They know you saw the security footage, and they're coming for you. Yoon's penthouse was a study in contrasts, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Han River, but with bulletproof glass. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than Amara's annual tuition, but positioned to provide clear sightlines to all entrances. Beauty and violence, existing in perfect balance. You'll stay here, Doyen said, leading her through the open-plan living space. My men are stationed on every floor. No one gets in without going through them first. Amara set down her bag, hastily packed after a stop at her tiny studio apartment. How long? Until I neutralize the threat. Which means? He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. You don't want details. Stop deciding what I want. She took the glass, but didn't drink. You dragged me into this world, Doyen. Don't treat me like I'm too fragile to handle the truth. Something shifted in his expression, that same flicker of respect she'd seen in the office. He gestured to the leather sofa. Sit with me. This time it was an invitation, not a command. Amara sat, maintaining careful distance between them. Doyen sprawled beside her, close enough that she caught his scent. Cedar and something darker, more complex. The truth, he began slowly, is that I inherited my father's organization 5 years ago. He built it on cruelty and fear. I've been trying to reshape it into something less monstrous. The humanitarian smuggling, the medical clinic, those are mine. But change makes enemies, especially among the old guard who preferred my father's methods. And the man in the security footage was one of those old guard. He was stealing from relief shipments to fund his own operations. I gave him a choice, leave the country or face consequences. The consequences being what you were doing in that parking garage. Doyen took a slow sip of whiskey. I don't do gentle, Amara, but I'm trying to be better than I was raised to be. Most days, I fail. The raw honesty in his voice cracked something in her chest. This wasn't the cold crime lord from the office or the protective savior from the clinic. This was a man carrying the weight of impossible choices. Why are you telling me this? She asked softly. Because you asked. He set down his glass and turned to face her fully. And because I'm selfish enough to want you to understand me before you decide I'm a monster, you can't stand to be near. I haven't decided that. You should. His gaze dropped to her lips, lingered, then dragged back up. Everything I touch, I ruin. It's a gift I inherited along with the Empire. Amara did something incredibly stupid. She reached out and covered his hand with hers. You saved Minjun's life tonight by bringing me to him. You run medical supplies to children who die without them. You employ people like me who need second chances. She squeezed his fingers. Those aren't the actions of a monster. Doyen stared at their joined hands like he'd never seen such a thing. Then slowly he turned his palm up and laced his fingers through hers. You're dangerous, he murmured. Far more dangerous than any rival gang. How? He lifted their joined hands, pressed them against his chest. His heart was racing. Because you make me want things I can't have. Peace, redemption, a life where someone like you could look at me without fear. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. But his grip tightened, contradicting his words. Amara, I've done things that would make you run screaming. I've hurt people, made decisions that cost lives. There's blood on these hands. She looked at their intertwined fingers. His hands were broad, calloused, with scars she hadn't noticed before. Hands that had killed, hands that had just held hers with heartbreaking gentleness. I'm a nursing student, she said quietly. I've held dying patients while they took their last breaths. I've seen violence, poverty, the worst humanity has to offer, and I've learned that people are complicated. Good and bad aren't always separate countries. Sometimes they're neighboring houses. Doyen's jaw worked. You're too good for this. For me. Stop telling me what I am. She shifted closer, emboldened by whiskey and adrenaline and the intoxicating danger of this man. You keep saying I should run, that I should fear you. But you've given me every opportunity to leave, and you haven't hurt me once. So maybe you're not the monster you think you are. He laughed, a broken sound. Or maybe I'm just a better actor than most. Before she could respond, he stood abruptly, putting distance between them. You should rest. Take the bedroom. I'll sleep out here. Doyen, please. The single word was rough, almost desperate. I'm trying very hard to be honorable here, and you're making it impossible. Heat flooded Amara's cheeks as she realized what he meant. The tension between them wasn't one-sided. He wanted her too. The knowledge should have terrified her. Instead, it sent a thrill down her spine. She stood, moved toward the bedroom, then paused at the threshold. For what it's worth, she said without turning around, I'm glad you found me tonight, even if everything about this is insane. Silence. Then so quietly she almost missed it. So am I. Amara woke to gunfire. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was back in Lagos during the riots, hiding in her family's apartment while chaos erupted outside. Then memory crashed back. Seoul, penthouse, Mafia boss, Doyen. She rolled out of bed, heart hammering, and cracked open the bedroom door. The living room was dark except for the city lights filtering through the windows. She heard shouts in Korean, running footsteps in the hallway outside. Then Doyen appeared, gun in hand, his face a mask of cold fury. Stay in the bedroom. Lock the door. What's happening? They found you. He chambered around. They're coming through the stairwell and the elevator simultaneously. Professional hit squad. Terror iced her veins. How many? Too many. He pressed a phone into her hand. If I don't come back in 10 minutes, call this number. My second-in-command will extract you. Doyen. He cupped her face with his free hand, the gesture achingly tender against the violence erupting around them. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. Then he kissed her forehead, brief, burning, and shoved her back into the bedroom. Lock the door. Amara locked it, then immediately began searching for anything she could use as a weapon or defense. The bedroom had a panic room. She found the hidden panel after 3 frantic minutes of searching, but entering it meant abandoning Doyen. More gunfire, breaking glass. A scream cut short. She couldn't hide while he fought. Not after he'd shown her the clinic, trusted her with his secrets, held her hand like she was something precious. Amara grabbed a heavy marble bookend, unlocked the door, and slipped into the hallway. The penthouse had become a war zone. 2 of Do-yoon's men lay motionless near the elevator. 3 attackers in tactical gear advanced on the living room, where Do-yoon had taken cover behind the kitchen island. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and bleeding from a graze on his shoulder. Amara's training took over. She couldn't fight, but she could create a distraction. She hurled the bookend at the nearest attacker, hitting him square in the back of the head. He stumbled, turning to locate the threat. Do-yoon used the opening to drop 2 attackers with precise shots. The third turned his weapon toward Amara. Time slowed. She saw the gun rising, saw Do-yoon's face contort in horror, saw her own death approaching in the form of a gloved finger tightening on a trigger. Then Do-yoon was there, throwing himself between her and the gunman. The shot went wide. Do-yoon returned fire. The attacker dropped. Silence fell, broken only by harsh breathing and distant sirens. Do-yoon spun to face her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his control had completely shattered. "What the hell were you thinking?" He grabbed her shoulders, not gently. "I told you to stay in the bedroom. You were outnumbered. So you decided to play hero with a fucking bookend?" His hands tightened, then immediately loosened, as if he was terrified of hurting her. "You could have died. Do you understand? You could have—" He cut himself off, chest heaving, eyes wild. Amara raised trembling hands to his face. "But I didn't, and neither did you. This time." His voice cracked. "God, Amara, when I saw that gun pointed at you, He pulled her against him, hard, burying his face in her hair. I can't lose you. Not when I just found you." She wrapped her arms around him, feeling his heart race against her cheek. "You didn't lose me. I'm right here." For a long moment they stood there, 2 people clinging to each other in a destroyed penthouse, while police sirens wailed closer. When Do-yoon finally pulled back, his eyes were bright with something that looked dangerously like tears. "We need to leave," he said roughly. "Now, before the authorities arrive." He grabbed her hand, that same firm grip that had become familiar, and led her to a hidden exit behind a bookshelf. As they descended the service stairs, Amara realized something that should have terrified her. She'd just chosen him over safety, over rationality, over everything that made sense, and she didn't regret it for a second. They ended up in a safe house in Itaewon, a modest apartment above a Turkish restaurant, so ordinary it was invisible. Do-yoon's men had swept it hours ago. Now it was just the 2 of them, adrenaline fading into exhaustion and something far more dangerous. Amara sat on the threadbare couch while Do-yoon paced like a caged wolf, his shoulder bandaged but still bleeding through. He'd refused to go to the clinic. "Let me look at that," she said quietly. "It's fine. You're bleeding through the gauze. Sit down." Their eyes met. Something passed between them, a silent battle of wills. Then Do-yoon sank onto the couch beside her, with a huff of frustration. Amara peeled away the makeshift bandage, wincing at the angry wound. "You need stitches. Later. Now." She found a first aid kit, threaded a suture needle with steady hands despite the tremor running through her body. "This will hurt. I've had worse." But when she made the first stitch, his hand shot out and gripped her thigh. Not painful, but anchoring. "Talk to me. Distract me." From a needle? The big bad Mafia boss needs distraction. His lips twitched. "The big bad Mafia boss," he said, "is trying very hard not to think about how close you came to dying tonight." Amara's hands faltered, then steadied. "I'm okay." "Because I got there in time. Another second—" "But you did." She finished the stitches, tied off the thread, and covered the wound with clean gauze. "You saved me. Again. I'm the reason you needed saving." His hand remained on her thigh, burning through the thin fabric of the borrowed clothes she wore. Everyone I care about becomes a target. My sister, He cut himself off. Your what? Silence stretched. Then, so quietly, she almost missed it. My first love. 10 years ago. I was young, stupid, thought I could keep her separate from this world. A rival found out about her. By the time I got there, his hand tightened convulsively. Amara covered it with her own. Doyun. I swore I'd never let anyone close again. He finally looked at her, and the naked pain in his eyes stole her breath. For 10 years, I kept that promise. I was cold, controlled, untouchable. And then you climbed out from behind that desk with your yellow uniform and your brave eyes, and His voice fractured. I'm so tired of being alone, Amara. Her heart cracked open. This brutal, dangerous man was breaking apart in front of her, all his carefully constructed walls crumbling. You're not alone, she whispered. I should let you go. Get you on a plane to America. Set you up somewhere safe where my enemies can't reach you. Is that what you want? His jaw clenched. What I want doesn't matter. It matters to me. She shifted closer, her knee touching his. What do you want, Doyun? He stared at her like she was an impossible equation. Then slowly, he raised his free hand and cupped her face. I want to be selfish. I want to keep you here, in my world, where I can see you and protect you and... His thumb traced her lower lip. And touch you. I want to kiss you until you forget your own name. I want to fall asleep knowing you're safe in my bed and wake up to your face. I want things I have no right to want. Amara's breath came short. Then be selfish. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. She was trembling now, but not from fear. I'm asking you to stop pushing me away, to stop deciding what's best for me. I'm asking you to... He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was 10 years of loneliness and tonight's terror and desperate, aching want, all compressed into the press of his lips against hers. Amara made a soft sound of surprise that became a moan when his hand slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. She'd been kissed before, awkward college attempts, fumbling first dates. This was nothing like that. This was claiming and surrender, question and answer, a conversation conducted in heat and breath and the slide of tongues. When they finally broke apart, Doyun pressed his forehead to hers, breathing hard. Tell me to stop. No. Amara, I said no. She gripped his shirt, holding him close. I'm not fragile. I'm not naive. I know what you are, what this world is, and I'm choosing to stay anyway. His control shattered completely. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his hands roaming her back, her waist pulling her closer until she was nearly in his lap. Amara gave as good as she got, biting his lower lip, threading her fingers through his hair, reveling in the groans she pulled from his throat. I don't deserve you, he murmured against her mouth. Probably not, she gasped as his lips found her neck. But you have me anyway. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. If you stay, there's no going back. My enemies will always see you as a weakness to exploit. You'll live with guards, restrictions, constant danger. Is that really what you want? Amara thought of her quiet life before tonight. The grinding poverty, the exhaustion, the loneliness of being a perpetual outsider. Then she looked at this complicated, damaged man who'd shown her hidden clinics and held her hand through chaos. I want you, she said simply. Everything else we'll figure out. The smile that broke across Doyun's face was like sunrise. Brilliant, transformative, almost painful to witness. You're insane, says the criminal with a hero complex. He laughed, actually laughed, and pulled her fully into his lap. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. You can start by kissing me again. He did. The reckoning dawn broke over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Amara woke tangled in sheets that smelled like cedar and Doyeon, in a bed that wasn't hers, in a life she hadn't imagined 48 hours ago. Doyeon lay beside her, finally asleep after hours of talking, kissing, mapping each other's boundaries and scars. In sleep, he looked younger. The harsh lines of command softened into something almost peaceful. She traced the scar through his eyebrow, feather-light, marveling at how quickly everything had changed. His eyes opened. For a moment he looked disoriented, then focus returned and he smiled. That rare, genuine expression he'd only just started showing her. "Morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Morning." She started to pull back, suddenly shy, but he caught her hand. "Don't. Stay." So she did, curled against his side while he absently stroked her arm, and the city woke beyond the window. "What happens now?" Amara asked eventually. "Now?" Doyeon's expression hardened slightly. "Now I end the threat against you, permanently." "Meaning?" "The rivals who sent that hit squad, they made this personal when they tried to kill you. I've been playing defense, trying to reshape the organization without outright war, but some messages can only be sent one way." There it was, the reminder that the man holding her so gently was also capable of brutal violence. Amara forced herself not to look away. "Will you tell me about it? After?" He studied her face. "Why?" "Because I want to understand all of you, not just the parts that are easy to accept." Something shifted in his eyes, wonder maybe, or disbelief. "You're serious." "I'm serious." He sat up, pulling her with him, and gripped her shoulders. "Amara, what I'm going to do today will involve violence, intimidation, the darkest parts of what I am. If you see that and decide you can't, then I'll tell you," she interrupted. "But I deserve the chance to make that choice. Don't push me away to protect me from yourself." For a long moment he just looked at her. Then he kissed her forehead. "You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the most foolish. Perhaps both." He rose, began dressing in fresh clothes his men had delivered. "You'll stay here while I handle this. I'll have guards." "No." He paused, shirt half buttoned. "No? I want to come with you." "Absolutely not. Doyeon, Amara, where I'm going isn't safe. There will be weapons, threats, potential violence. I won't risk you again." She stood, moved to him, placed her hands on his chest. "Last night you said I was in this world now whether I liked it or not, that I was part of your organization. Was that true or just pillow talk?" His jaw clenched. "It was true." "Then treat me like it. Let me see what I've chosen. All of it." They stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, Doyeon exhaled slowly. "You stay in the car. You don't leave the vehicle for any reason. If I tell you to drive away, you drive. No arguments. Deal." "You're going to be the death of me," he muttered, but there was reluctant admiration in his voice. 3 hours later, Amara sat in the back seat of an armored SUV outside a warehouse in the industrial district. Doyeon had gone inside with a dozen of his men. Through the grimy windows, she could see shadows moving, hear raised voices. Then a gunshot. Her heart stopped. The driver, a stoic man named Jay, didn't even flinch. "Is that normal?" Amara asked. "Warning shot," Jay said. "Boss is negotiating." 5 minutes that felt like 5 hours. Then Doyeon emerged, unharmed but splattered with blood that definitely wasn't his. His face was cold, emotionless, the face of the man from the security footage. He slid into the back seat beside her, and Amara instinctively pressed back. He noticed, froze. "I told you," he said quietly. "This is what I am." But Amara saw beyond the blood and the icy expression. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands trembled slightly before he fisted them. He hated this, every violent second of it. She reached out and took his hand. "Are you hurt?" "No." Did someone die? No, but they'll wish they had. He met her eyes, searching for revulsion or fear. Still want to hold my hand? Instead of answering, Amara unbuckled her seatbelt and moved closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Yes. She felt him exhale, the tension draining incrementally. His arm came around her, holding her like she was an anchor. You should run from me, he murmured into her hair. Probably, but I'm not very good at doing what I should. His chest rumbled with silent laughter. No, you're really not. They drove through Seoul in silence, Amara's hand in Doyen's, both of them acutely aware that they'd crossed a line. She'd seen his darkness and hadn't fled. He'd let her see it and hadn't pushed her away. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. 1 week later, Amara stood in the medical clinic checking Min-jun's surgical site. The young man was healing well, already joking with the nurses. You saved my life, he said in careful English. Boss says I owe you a debt. You don't owe me anything. Just stay out of gunfights. He grinned. I'll try. As she left the ward, she found Doyen waiting in the hallway. He'd been doing that lately, appearing in doorways, watching her work with an expression that made her pulse race. You're hovering, she said. I'm observing, stalking, protecting. He fell into step beside her as they walked to the elevator. The clinic director wants to offer you a permanent position, full salary, benefits, and you'd still have time for your nursing degree. Amara stopped walking. What? You're brilliant at this. The staff adores you, the patients trust you, and... He reached out, tucked a stray hair behind her ear, in that gesture she'd come to recognize as his tell when he was being vulnerable. And I like knowing you're safe here, doing work that matters. Doyun, this is your secret criminal medical facility. It's a humanitarian operation that happens to serve an unconventional clientele. He smiled slightly. Semantics. She wanted to argue, but the truth was that she loved working here, loved the intensity, the purpose, the feeling that she was saving lives that the system had abandoned. I need to finish my degree first, she said. The director will work around your class schedule. And my student visa is being converted to a skilled worker visa as we speak, entirely legal. She gaped at him. You can't just rearrange my entire life. Watch me. But his expression softened. If you want me to, if this is what you want. It was. God help her, she wanted exactly this. The chaotic, dangerous, purposeful life she'd stumbled into, wanted the clinic and the intensity, and this impossible man who looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking. On one condition, Amara said, name it. You teach me self-defense. If I'm staying in your world, I need to be able to protect myself. Pride flickered in his eyes. Done. Anything else? Take me to dinner, a real date, somewhere without armed guards and criminal negotiations. That might be harder to arrange, he said wryly, but I'll try. They reached the elevator. As the doors closed, shutting out the clinic and the world, Doyen backed her gently against the wall. I have something for you, he murmured, reaching into his jacket. Amara's breath caught. If that's a gun, I'm not ready. He laughed and pulled out a small box. Inside was a delicate necklace, a pendant in the shape of a medical caduceus, but crafted in black titanium with tiny diamonds. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's also a panic button. Press the center and my men will have your location in seconds. He lifted it from the box, moved behind her to fasten it around her neck. His fingers brushed her nape, sending shivers down her spine. I know you value your independence, but let me have this, the knowledge that I can reach you if you need me. Amara touched the pendant, feeling its weight, a gift and a leash, protection and possession. With any other man, she'd have refused, but with Doyen, who'd given her choices at every turn, even when it killed him. Thank you, she said, turning to face him. He cupped her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones. You walked into my world in a yellow janitor's uniform, and you changed everything. You know that, right? You held me hostage in an executive office and somehow convinced me to fall for you. We're even. I didn't hold you hostage. I gave you the choice to leave. And I stayed. Why? The question was raw, genuinely confused. Why would someone like you choose someone like me? Amara rose on her toes, bringing them eye to eye. Because you run humanitarian smuggling operations disguised as a crime syndicate. Because you're trying to be better than you were taught to be. Because you look at me like I'm precious. She kissed him softly. Because you told me to sit still, and I'm still deciding whether to obey. Heat flared in his eyes. Oh? I'm very bad at following orders. I've noticed. He backed her more firmly against the wall, his body a warm, solid presence. Perhaps you need more instruction. Perhaps you need to stop talking and... He kissed her, cutting off the words. The elevator continued its descent, but they stayed locked together, tasting and teasing and reveling in this impossible thing they'd built from danger and defiance. When the doors opened to the parking garage, they broke apart, both breathing hard. Dinner, Doyen said firmly. Tonight. I'll pick you up at 7. I'll be ready. As he started to walk away, Amara called after him. Doyen. He turned. I love you. The words hung in the air between them, terrifying and true. Amara hadn't meant to say them, not yet, not so soon, but they'd escaped anyway. Doyen went very still. Then he crossed back to her in 3 strides, cupped her face, and kissed her with desperate intensity. Say it again, he breathed against her lips. I love you. He pressed his forehead to hers, eyes closed. I don't deserve that, but God, Amara, I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Good, she whispered. We'll be terrified together. The restaurant Doyen chose was on a rooftop overlooking Namsan Tower. Intimate, exclusive, with exactly 2 tables. Amara arrived in a borrowed dress, courtesy of Doyen's assistant, feeling both out of place and exactly where she belonged. Doyen stood when she entered, and the look on his face made the awkward dress shopping worth it. You're stunning. You clean up well yourself. He wore a dark suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, his hair styled back to reveal that aristocratic bone structure. He looked like a CEO, not a crime lord. The mask he showed the world. Dinner was perfect. Attentive service, incredible food, conversation that flowed easily now that they'd learned each other's rhythms. Doyen told her about his childhood before his father's empire had swallowed him. Amara shared stories of Lagos, of the family she missed terribly. For a few hours, they were just 2 people falling in love. Then dessert arrived, and with it, Doyen's phone. He glanced at the screen, frowned. Problem? Amara asked. My source in the police department. He went very still, reading. Then his eyes lifted to hers, filled with an emotion she couldn't name. They've arrested someone for the attack on my penthouse. That's good news, isn't it? It should be. He turned the phone to show her a photo. This is the man they arrested. Do you recognize him? Amara looked at the face on screen and felt her blood turn to ice. That's Dr. Choi, from the clinic. Doyen nodded slowly. The doctor who collapsed from exhaustion the night I brought you in, who conveniently wasn't present when the attack happened. His voice was carefully neutral. The night you saved Min Jun, you asked for O-negative blood. Dr. Choi gave it to you immediately. Yes, and? Min Jun is AB positive. There was no reason to have O-negative prepped unless someone knew you specifically would be coming, unless someone told them you were a universal recipient who might need emergency transfusion. The implication crashed over her. You think someone at the clinic set me up? I think someone has been feeding information to my enemies for months, and I think they saw you as an opportunity, the woman who witnessed footage she shouldn't have, who the boss inexplicably kept alive. He reached across the table, took her hand. They used you as bait to draw me into a trap. Amara's mind raced. The attack hadn't been random. Someone had orchestrated it, knowing Doyen would protect her, knowing exactly where she'd be. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked quietly. "Because." Doyen's grip tightened. "Because I need you to understand that this life, my life, is full of betrayals and traps. People will use you to get to me. They'll see your kindness as weakness and your love for me as a weapon. Are you trying to scare me away again?" "No." His voice was fierce. "I'm trying to prepare you. If you stay with me, you need to be smart, careful, willing to question everything. Can you do that?" Amara thought about the week she'd spent at the clinic, the people she'd treated, the lives she'd saved. One traitor didn't negate all that good. "Yes," she said firmly, "I can. Even knowing that the danger will never fully stop, that there will always be another enemy, another threat." She stood, moved around the table to him. Doyen pushed back his chair and she slid into his lap, facing him. "I'm a Nigerian woman studying medicine in Korea while working 3 jobs and sending money home to family in America. My whole life has been navigating danger and uncertainty." She cupped his face. "The only difference now is that I have someone watching my back." "Always," he vowed. "For the rest of my life, Amara, I'll watch your back. Then we'll be fine." He kissed her like he was sealing a promise, his hand spanning her waist, holding her close. Around them, the city glittered, a million lights representing a million lives, all interconnected in ways they'd never understand. "I need to go handle Dr. Choi," Doyen murmured against her lips. "But after you take me home." Amara pulled back to meet his eyes. "Your home, where I can properly thank you for this evening." Heat flared in his gaze. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." The penthouse had been repaired. New windows, fresh paint, no evidence of the violence that had erupted there. But Amara felt the ghost of it as Doyen led her inside, his hand warm and solid in hers. "Last chance," he said, turning to face her in the moonlit living room. "You can still walk away, go back to your quiet life, your student apartment, your safe choices. Is that what you want?" "What I want," Doyen said, stepping closer, "is to be selfish, to keep you here, in my world, in my bed, in my life. I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep knowing you're safe. I want to be the man you chose despite every rational reason not to." Amara reached up, began unbuttoning his shirt. "Then be selfish." His control fractured. He swept her into his arms, carried her to the bedroom she'd hidden in during the attack. But tonight there was no fear, no violence, only the two of them, finally giving in to the want that had been building since that first moment in the executive office. "I love you," Doyen whispered against her skin as he laid her on the bed. "I love your bravery, your kindness, your stubborn refusal to do what's expected." "I love you," Amara gasped as his hands mapped her body. "I love your complexity, your contradiction, the way you're trying so hard to be good in a bad world." They came together like a storm meeting the shore, inevitable, powerful, transformative. Every touch was a promise, every kiss a vow. When they finally lay tangled together in the aftermath, Amara felt fundamentally changed. "No going back now," Doyen murmured, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "Good." She turned to face him, found him watching her with such naked adoration it stole her breath. "I like where I am." "Trapped in a Mafia boss's penthouse?" She smiled, remembering that first night. "You told me to sit still. I should have known then I was in trouble." "You were in trouble," he agreed. "The best kind." As dawn approached, they talked. About the clinic, about Dr. Choi's betrayal. Doyen had handled it, she didn't ask how. About the future they were cautiously beginning to build. Amara would continue her studies, work at the clinic, learn to navigate this dangerous world she'd chosen, and Doyen would continue his work, the humanitarian operations he hid behind criminal ones, the slow transformation of his father's empire into something that could do good as well as harm. "It won't be easy," he warned as morning light crept across the bed. "Nothing worthwhile is. People will judge you for being with me. Let them. You'll have guards, restrictions, constant vigilance. As long as I have you, I can handle it." He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "You're too good for this world, Amara." "No," she corrected softly. "I'm exactly right for it. And for you." Months later, when people asked Amara how she fell in love with one of Seoul's most dangerous men, she'd smile and say, "He told me to sit still. And for the first time in my life, I didn't run. I stayed and discovered what could happen when you stop hiding from danger and face it head on." But what she never told them was the rest of that night. How she'd climbed from behind a desk in a yellow uniform and walked straight into a life she never imagined. How she'd found love in the last place anyone would look for it, or how some traps weren't prisons at all, but doorways to freedom she'd been searching for her entire life.